What if I told you that the most dominant offensive performance in modern NBA history wasn't supposed to happen? What if the player who delivered it wasn't even considered a scorer? Bam Adebayo just put up 83 points in a single game, and the basketball world is still trying to process what it witnessed. But here's the thing, this wasn't a random explosion. There was a system behind it. There was a plan. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how a player built around defense and versatility managed to rewrite the record books in one single night. Because when you look at the numbers carefully, when you study the tape and break down the strategy, one thing becomes crystal clear. This was not luck. This was architecture. To truly understand the weight of what happened, you first need to understand who Bam Adebayo is and what he was built to be. Born Idris Femi Adebayo in Newark, New Jersey, Bam grew up in a challenging environment where basketball became his path forward. The Miami Heat selected him with the 14th pick in the 2017 NBA draft, and from his very first seasons in the league, it was clear that he was a different kind of player. Not a scorer by nature, not a guy you'd draw up plays for in the final seconds of a close game. Bam was the engine, the anchor, the player who made everyone else around him better. He was a two-time All-Star, an Olympic gold medalist, and one of the most respected defenders in the entire league. He was known for his ability to guard every position on the floor, for his basketball IQ, and for his unselfish style of play. Nothing in his profile suggested that one night he would wake up and decide to score 83 points against an NBA team, and yet, that's exactly what happened. Bam Adebayo delivered one of the greatest individual performances in NBA history, dropping 83 points in a Miami Heat victory over the Washington Wizards. That number places him second on the all-time single-game scoring list, behind only Wilt Chamberlain's legendary 100-point performance back in 1962. Let that sink in for a moment. He passed Kobe Bryant, who scored 81 points against the Toronto Raptors in 2006 in what had long been considered the gold standard of modern scoring performances. He passed Elgin Baylor, David Thompson, Pete Maravich, names that belong in any serious conversation about the greatest scorers this sport has ever seen. And he did it as a center who, for most of his career, was praised primarily for what he did without the ball. This is not a small achievement. This is a seismic shift in how we think about Bam Adebayo as a basketball player, and potentially in how we think about what's possible in this league. The opening quarter set the tone for everything that followed. Adebayo came out with an intensity and a purpose that the Wizards simply had no answer for. He scored 31 points in the first quarter alone, setting a new Miami Heat record for points in a single period. Think about what that means in practical terms. 31 points in 12 minutes. There are starting players in this league who don't reach 31 points in an entire game. Bam did it before the first commercial break of the second quarter, and what made it even more striking was the way he did it. No excessive three-point attempts, no hero ball, no desperation shots. He was methodical, attacking the paint with his powerful frame, drawing contact, finishing through defenders, and operating within the flow of the offense in a way that suggested this wasn't improvisation, it was execution. By halftime, he had already accumulated 43 points, breaking the franchise record for points in a first half and making it undeniably clear that something historic was unfolding inside the Kaseya Center. When teams fall behind early because of one player's dominance, the natural response is to throw everything at that player defensively. Double teams, triple teams, zone schemes, physical defense at the point of attack. The Wizards tried all of it in the second half, and none of it worked. Adebayo entered the fourth quarter with 62 points, having already surpassed marks that most players never approach in an entire season's worth of big games. What kept him going wasn't just physical dominance, it was tactical intelligence. Every time Washington sent extra defenders his way, he found the right play, and when he chose to attack, he did so with a precision that made fouling him almost inevitable. By the final buzzer, he had attempted 43 free throws, converting 36 of them. That free throw volume tells a story that goes beyond raw athleticism. It tells the story of a player who understood exactly where the defense was vulnerable and exploited that vulnerability with relentless consistency for 48 minutes. The secret behind 83 points wasn't a single decision or a single play. It was a combination of strategic planning and near-perfect execution from the opening tip. The Miami Heat's game plan appears to have been built around one central idea: feed Bam early, let him establish a rhythm, and force the Wizards to make impossible choices on defense. Washington's defensive limitations were well documented heading into that game, and Miami's coaching staff clearly identified the mismatch and committed to exploiting it from the very first possession. What followed was a masterclass in how a modern NBA offense can be designed around a single player's strengths, specifically his ability to score in the paint and draw fouls at an elite level. The 43 free throw attempts weren't a coincidence. They were the intended outcome of a strategy that prioritized consistent scoring under pressure over flashy highlights. And the result wasn't just a record-breaking individual performance, it was a Miami Heat victory. Bam didn't sacrifice winning for personal glory. He achieved both simultaneously, which is perhaps the most impressive part of the entire story. Comparing any modern performance to what Wilt Chamberlain did in 1962 requires important context. The NBA of that era operated at a significantly faster pace, with different rules governing how free throws were administered and a level of defensive sophistication that simply cannot be compared to what exists in today's league. None of that diminishes what Wilt accomplished. He remains one of the most physically dominant athletes in the history of professional sports, and his 100-point game will likely never be touched. But what Bam Adebayo did in 2025 in the modern NBA against athletes who are bigger, faster, and more tactically prepared than any generation before them is extraordinary by any standard. He didn't just score, he adapted in real time to defensive adjustments. He made the right decisions under enormous pressure. He maintained his shooting mechanics at the free throw line when the entire basketball world was watching, and he did all of it while keeping his team in position to win the game. There is something deeply compelling about the fact that this performance came from Bam Adebayo specifically. If LeBron James or Kevin Durant had scored 83 points, the reaction would have been shock, but perhaps not total disbelief. Those players have always been understood as capable of almost anything offensively. Bam was different. His identity in this league was built on selflessness, on defense, on being the player who made the stars around him shine brighter. And in one night, without abandoning any of those qualities, he showed that his offensive ceiling was something no one had fully mapped. That's what makes this moment so powerful. It's not just about the points. It's about the expansion of what we believed was possible for this particular player. And in a league that has been playing basketball for nearly 8 decades, moments that genuinely surprise us, moments that force us to reconsider our assumptions, are rarer than any scoreline can capture. What separates the greats in NBA history from everyone else isn't just raw talent, it's the ability to recognize a moment and rise to meet it completely. Plenty of players have had nights where everything felt easy and still fell short of greatness. Because beyond talent and opportunity, what's required is the mental clarity to keep making the right decisions when the stakes are highest, to not pull back when a record is within reach, to trust the preparation that brought you to that moment. Bam Adebayo had all of those things on that night against the Washington Wizards, and the result is a performance that will be discussed for as long as this sport is played. So the real question now isn't whether what we witnessed was extraordinary. It clearly was. The real question is what it means going forward. Does this change how teams will prepare to defend Adebayo? Does it shift how the Heat will use him in their offensive system? Does it open a new chapter in his career? One where his scoring potential becomes a genuine weapon rather than a pleasant surprise? And perhaps most intriguingly, could he do something like this again? What do you think? Drop your take in the comments below, and if you're not subscribed yet, make sure you hit that button because we break down the moments that define this league every single week.